last month, Cal did a really good job talking about the difference between two different distros and the same desktop environment. So the next question popped up and said, what about two different desktops in the same distro? So I thought, okay, we'll take a look at Mint-MATE and Mint-Xfce. I chose those two because I use Mint-MATE and not cinnamon, so I picked it that way. This was a very difficult. It wasn't easy. So I'm going to start out by first talking about what I discovered was the same about Mint-MATE and Mint-Xfce. Xfce. And the kernel's the same because that's where the base comes. They're both using a display manager called LightDM. They both come from an ancestry of the Mint 20 or Mint 21.1. Now I should add Mint 21.2. And of course, above that is the Ubuntu base of 20.04 or maybe 20.04.1. Interesting thing is they both use swap files instead of swap partition by default. So when you do a unattended, just a regular install, it doesn't put a swap partition. They use swap files instead. And I noticed that the taskbars were identical with what was on them. They all used the same package manager, which is Synaptic, which is kind of in between the command line and the software manager. And it was interesting. I'm not going to go try to figure it out, but with a clean install of Mate, it's installed with 2130 packages, but Xfce comes with 2133. Not quite sure what the 3 is there, but anyway, the software manager is the Mint install. The update manager is the Mint update. And for printing, they both use the CUPS printing service. So what else is the same? The software. That's what really got me. I'm not going to go through all of these, but I'm just showing you that it doesn't really matter whether you're using Cinnamon or Mate or Xfce. You're all going to be using this same software that's across the board. And it's because that Mint has modified or forked some of the tools into their X, like the X Viewer, X Reader, X Ed. So they're using it for all the programs instead of maybe what would be the generic file or the generic editor that would come with like Xfce. So they are kind of all the same. All right, so let's try and see what we can do in difference. Well, the most obvious difference is that one is using the Mate desktop environment, which is the 126, and Xfce is using the Xfce 416. But as of yesterday and an upgrade, you can now go to the 4.18. The window manager that takes care of all what you see, Mate is using the Marco, and Xfce uses one called XFWM, so it's the XF window manager, which is extremely customizable. Their file manager, we've kind of talked about those before. Mate uses the one called Kaja, and Xfce uses Thunar. Interesting, both are kind of based off of Nautilus, which is the, like the GNOME file manager, but they made their tweaks. One important thing to point out that in the 4.18 that just came out, Thunar now has split screens. All these years, Thunar did not have it, and that was kind of one thing that I felt was kind of lacking in Thunar. so I could, download something else to go with it. But now it does. So for me, I think Thunar can be my file manager with as easy it is to work, and it has it now. So that's one change. Now, in terms of the menu, MATE has the advanced MATE menu, which is really based off of the GNOME 2 menu from way back when most of us started with Ubuntu. It kind of keeps that same one, and it has a couple different versions of it. Whereas the Xfce uses the Whiskers menu, which is very good, but very uncluttered and very similar to a Windows one, where you just have, well, not exactly Windows. You have the categories, and then the files come out of that. Now, one thing I can't comment too much on is that in terms of a terminal, which is big for a lot of people, MATE terminal versus Xfce terminal. I look at them, I need somebody else to do a workshop or a presentation for us and kind of talk about what all these different terminals do and why do we have so many of them. They also, just to show you that they have a little bit of difference in the screen capture program. MATE does screenshots and Xfce does Xfce for screen shooter. The other big thing that I discovered as you try to compare is that terminology, is different. In MATE, you have a control center. In Xfce, you have a settings manager. The other thing, MATE kind of divides up into a number of subcategories, all the settings and the control. And MATE has one that shows you these are administrative settings, these are controlling your preferences. In Xfce, it's kind of like one big long list. So it's a preference. I went through one by one and compared and found, I think, just about every thing in the control center and settings manager were both there, maybe in kind of a different location or like with maybe a different name. I did notice that under the preferred applications, if you go to that, or it called default applications, that MATE has 4 different tabs, I think, with 15 different categories of what do you want to specify as your default program. The Xfce only had like 2 tabs with 2 choices in each. But because of how much Xfce has with customizability, it had a list of hundreds of file types that you could go down and do that, just like you could do that in Windows. So they decided that there's only maybe 4 basic programs that you need to set as your preferred, but you can go down through the list and pick any of the file types and assign it the program that you want it to use by default. I guess choices. Now, what's extra? When I went through this looking, what's extra? Well, I found that in Xfce, they had a separate Windows Manager tweaks that gave you a number of other things that you can do to change the way the windows work in there. Now, I'm not going to go over all that. We don't have the time. But if you go to it, go check out that and find out that you got a lot more customization. Xfce even comes with a color profiler. And I learned about this years ago when I was trying to learn about taking digital cameras and stuff, and how what you see on your screen isn't what always is what comes out in the printer. And so you need to do a software to match them up so that what you see is what you get. But it comes with a color profiler, and nobody else I've ever seen that has it. Strangely, it has a removable disk and media settings that lets you say, what do you want to do with whatever gets plugged in or whatever, like we did. But MATE didn't have that. I went through everything I could find out and didn't have that. Mate's desktop has a desktop setting. Xfce calls it desktop. They do the exact same thing. They look the same, but then Xfce gives you another desktop setting, which is more than just the Windows manager. And finally, Xfce has a settings editor, but to me, when I looked through that, it looked like it was like Windows registry. And I wasn't about to get into it until I really knew. But that just tells you that with the Xfce, you have so much control and so much extras to go with it. So you can get right down into like changing the registry in the settings or Xfce, but Linux, I don't think they call it the Windows registry, obviously. Okay, so to be honest, I said, what did I find was missing? Well, not too much, but I did find that Xfce does not come with screensavers. Now, it has a screen saving program that you can set it to go to a dark black screen, shut down, all those kind of things, but you can't pick the cutesy pictures of the screenshot or screensaver visuals, but you can download it. It's called, I think it's called X Screenshot. And I've done that before a long time ago. If you need those extra little things that my feeling is, why do you have it? If you're going to sit there and watch it, you might as well be working on your computer. The other thing, not as many preset keyboard shortcuts. Now in Mate, we've looked at that before. You can go to keyboard shortcuts, and there is a huge list of things that are already set up that all you have to do is either choose the key combination you want or change what they have. But Xfce just had a limited number, but late night C-A-B, good, John. But you can always add them. Add what you want, put the command in, and set the keyboard. So it gives you, I guess what it is that Mate says, we're going to set it up for you, but Xfce says, we're going to give you the whole field to be able to play in. And the other thing I didn't notice was that the themes, like in Mate, when you pick a theme, it kind of shows you what the folders would look like, and Xfce didn't. They have all the themes that Mate has, but you just don't see the preview. As we all know, what you see is what you get. With Xfce, what you get, extensive customization, very responsive to tasks because of minimal resource usage, extra Windows management customization, and a focus on accessibility features. However, it is not what you see is what you get with Xfce. It's what you don't see is what you're getting. There is so much completely behind or in the background that you need to check it out and see. I went and did my first Chat GPT because everybody else has, and they're probably wondering, well, why haven't you tried it? And there's a lot of reasons I'm not totally in favor. But here's what Chat GPT said to me after I asked it a whole number of questions about comparison between the two, and then refined the question again and again. It's a choice. It comes down to personal preference and your specific requirements. I'd have to say that I don't think that I could say that Xfce is better than Mate or that Mate is better than Xfce. They're both good environments providing lightweight, efficient users, but specifically it says implementation and customization options may vary. And that's where I think Xfce in Mint has more of that than Mate does. Also, ChatGPT said that advantages of Xfce are subjective. So much of the computer world is subjective. Which distro is better? Which desktop is better? It's subjective. The recommendation, try them both. I fired them both up in virtual machines and gather the more information to determine which one aligns better with your needs and your preferences. So interesting that a lot of the stuff is absolutely the same. Some things are different, but it's a lot of times you can't see what it is that is making the difference.
I have a question.
Okay, do that while I'm looking for Drew.
He's here.
Yep, got to get him.
Can the two file managers run on either MATE or Xfce?
Absolutely, and I even had a third one running. So I had 3 different ones trying to say which one do I like the better, and always Kaja kind of got the big lead because of the split screen, but now that Xfce has it, I don't know. But yeah, I had 3 different file managers going, trying to decide which ones I like better.
Cool way to find out which one. That's great. And that was my only question. And FYI, I did try to make him a co-host, but as a co-host, I couldn't do that. I thought I could.
I thought you could too, but he is back, and he is back as a co-host, and so we'll switch now and turn things over to Drew, since he said he's back on a different computer, so things should hopefully work better. So Drew, if you're there.
You're going to introduce him again, please.
Oh, you're going to do that whole thing? Okay.
Well, for the video.
Well, I didn't introduce me for the video.
I know, but we know who you are. Oh, I was going to get in touch.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay, good.
But you got to wait for a second. Welcome to APCUG's Wednesday workshop, where we get together in the middle of the week to learn more about technology. Today in our Learning Linux workshop, we're going to take a look at a piece of software that you want to have on your computer because it will run your smartphone. This is a program that when you connect it up, everything you can do on your smartphone, you can do from your computer. And today, Drew King is with us, and he is going to tell us all about it and hopefully get everybody to go take a look at it. So Drew, we're over to you.
Okay, let me unmute. All right, I'm unmuted now, right?
Yes, I can hear you.
And let me see if I can. I'm remoting into my other computer, so I'm hoping that this is going to work the way that I intended it to. And I will start with this guy here and just hide floating meeting control panel. Here we go. And hide those and maximize this guy. And everybody should be able to see. Oops, no, I don't want to do that. I want to do this. All right, here we go. KDE Connect. And KDE Connect enables communication between cell phones and computers. One of the nice things is we're here to talk primarily today about Linux, although the software is capable of connecting to Windows, Android, and Mac OS as well. So it's free, it's open source, and one of the things that you can do is share files and links between devices. And I'm going to do just a limited number of slides and then hopefully spend most of the time just using the software so you can see actually it moving files and links. For example, you take a picture with your cell phone and you want to get it into an email on your Linux machine, what do you do to get it there quickly? This program will ship it over in a few seconds. And you can then pop your picture into an editor or an email. Phone notifications. Once you're connected, any new notifications that come in on your cell phone will be automatically directed to your desktop. So, and then you can see them. And then if on Linux, you can also do SMS text messaging. You can't do it on Windows for some reason. Text messaging is supported on Linux only. And I'll demonstrate that as well so that you can see how when you receive a new text message, it will pop a message indicator up on your Linux desktop, letting you know that your cell phone just received a new text message. If you happen to be playing music, it's supposed to automatically mute the music when you get a new phone call, only I haven't been able to test that out, to be playing music and then have somebody call me at the same time. So I'm just letting you know that I don't know that that works, but it's a feature. Your phone can control your desktop. It's not actually the desktop controlling the phone. And you can create commands to launch apps, lock the screen, shut down the computer, do all kinds of different things that you wanted to be able to do with your phone and computer. For music players, you can remotely control the music that's playing on your desktop. So if you have VLC, when I tried it on Windows, the software didn't recognize it. But on Linux, the VLC actually works. It must subscribe properly to this MPRIS, the Media Player Remote Interface Specification. So I'll show you how you can pause and skip songs and things like that with your phone, so that you don't have to be in front of your computer to skip a song if you're listening to music at home. These are all the music players that they claim to be supported. I'll be using the last one on the list, which is VLC, which is an open source free product. Another feature that it can do is be a presentation remote for you. So you can be doing a presentation in a hall or meeting room live and not have to be in front of your computer to advance from slide to slide in your presentation. And we'll show how that works. If your phone happens to slip between the seat cushions and the sofa, or it's in another room and you don't know where it is, you can actually make your phone ring from your computer so that you can find your phone. And it's open source, free to use, no licensing fees, and hopefully the product will get rid of some of the bugs that it has. But that's basically it for the presentation notes that I have. Even though it says KDE, don't confuse it with the KDE desktop. This does not require or use the KDE desktop in Linux. It's merely an app written by the KDE organization. And now I will minimize that and that. And this is my remote computer. This is my Linux machine that's actually running on a physically different computer. And I'm going to put that into a window so I can get to my menu. How do I get to my menus? There we go. I need to start up the phone link app. I had to reboot my computer. I apologize. And then I had to switch computers. So now you can see side by side my cell phone screen and my Linux desktop. And the Linux machine is called Parrot. It's showing the battery level being at 77% and that it's charging because it is plugged in. And then these are the 6 options that I have on my cell phone to be able to interact with my Linux machine. I can send files. I can send only the clipboard. I can do a slideshow remote, the media controls. Remote input will do things like move the mouse around on the screen, allow you to click the mouse and open and close programs, from your cell phone. And you'll also be able to run commands. What I'm going to do real quickly, I was going to do quickly, is actually run a command from Windows, but I have to skip that because of my problems that I've been having. So on Linux, what I'll do is I'll click run command. I created in advance a command that will launch the Brave web browser, and hopefully the Brave web browser will start launching in a moment. There we go. And then there's the Firefox browser. I just told it to launch. And so now there's the Firefox web browser. Coming up, there it is. And now I will get rid of that and minimize and minimize. And the next thing that we're going to show off is, I keep, hang on one second. I apologize for this. All right, so it's going to pause controls. It's going to, I just received a notification that you just saw on the screen because I'm running it on the computer that I'm demoing on. So I've opened the browser. I'm going to send a file. That's the next thing I'm going to do is grab a file. I'm going to have to go to send files, and then I will just pick an APCUG demo file, and you should see that file appear right here on my desktop inside Linux. And that is how you would transfer a file from your cell phone to your Linux computer. Alternatively, I can go into, let's say I have Google Photos. I can open up a picture. Let's say I just took a picture of my dog. I will click on the share button on my cell phone, and then I'll click on more. And one of the options that I'll have at the lower part of the screen here, you'll see is an option to use KDE Connect. More and KDE Connect. And then I can now share that to my computer. And now here's the picture on my computer, and I can edit it or email it to anybody that I want. That's how quick and easy it is to send a picture from your cell phone to your Linux computer or your Windows computer. And then I will go in here, and I can, from the taskbar, have additional options. I can send a file or a URL. So for example, I want to send a URL to my cell phone. And I'll just type in https://arclone.org and hit OK, and it should open the, and now sent it over to my cell phone, and I can now see the Arclone application or web page on my cell phone. And you can similarly do the same thing. You can share your file with from the Android phone to the copy link. Where's more? KDE Connect. I'm going to send it over to my Windows, my Linux computer, and hopefully my Linux computer is going to open with the browser. So you can send web pages. Let's say you start browsing a web page on your cell phone. You can just this easily send it to your desktop computer and continue working on the same website. That's another feature that you have. And then the next feature that we'll demo is going to be the slideshow remote. And what I'm going to do is go into my documents folder and launch a little tiny demo presentation program that has, I meant to have this running in advance, but my problems got in the way. So we will recover and get through. And I'm going to start the slideshow on my Linux computer just to make things easy. And then on my cell phone, I will tap slideshow remote. And then I have on the screen 2 buttons where I can then tap that button and you'll see that the slide presentation went to slide number 2. And now it went to slide number 3. And I can use the mouse on my computer. I can walk around the room with my cell phone and flip back and forth between the different slides that can be done in the presentation. Let me hide this again. Oh, there we go, auto head. So that's how you share a presentation. And next we'll do multimedia remote controls. So we have the music player running. I don't know if you're going to be able to hear the sound or not, but I can use my cell phone. Right now I've got the mouse over my cell phone, and if I tap on the Android phone, I can launch the music.
We heard that.
And you can hear that. And I can advance to the next song if I want to. So you have full control. 2 very different songs there. So you can be listening to music. Let's say you have your computer connected to your stereo or your TV, and you're playing music through your speakers. You can be in the bedroom and mute or change the volume level or fast forward or skip songs on the music that you have running on your computer. So remote input option is really nothing more than moving the mouse around on the screen with my finger. I'm actually dragging my finger around the screen on my phone, and I'm moving the mouse around on my Linux desktop. And then if I hover it over, let's say free file sync, I can double tap on my phone screen and open up free file sync. And actually, if I'm doing a presentation, I can launch software and do things without having to be in front of the keyboard. And I will next do running a command. Oh, we already did that. I'm sorry. What do I have next on my list? We did the remote input. We ran commands. Let me show you how you run a command. If I say that I want to run a command, I have this option in the lower side here to add a command. And in Linux, it automatically opened the run command configuration area. And I labeled this one Brave, and Brave-browser happens to be the Linux command to launch the browser if you were to type it in from a terminal window. And Firefox is how you would run it from a terminal window. And they give you sample commands so you can remotely shut down your computer, reboot your computer, change the brightness, lock the screen. And those are commands that they give you included already. And then you can create your own commands as well by simply entering them in the box. The next thing that we will cover is SMS text messaging. And it's a separate application that you run on your, do I have it loaded already? Yes, I do. You can see, if you can see, Galaxy S21 is highlighted in the bottom of the window. And these are all of my current and most recent SMS text messages that exist on my cell phone. And if I were to type in hi APCUG, I should get, in addition to getting the message, I should receive a notification. And there they come. And you'll see that I received 2 notifications, one up here in Linux and one down below in Windows, because I'm running the Windows application from Microsoft that does the same thing. So you can respond to text messages using the keyboard on your computer. You can even attach a file if you want to send a file via SMS to somebody. And that's about everything that KDE Connect does that I can demo for you all today. In case anybody has any questions, I can show off something else or answer any questions. But this is the point in time where you want to ask those.
I have a few questions. I use an Xfce PC and profanity generator, also known as an iPhone. How does communication work? A cable, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, or please specify?
The other option is none of the above. It doesn't work on an iPhone, I don't believe.
Okay. Does KDE Connect work with both Apple? I guess not. iPhone and iPad and Android devices, so I guess the answer is no.
It works on the Mac OS desktop. And I want to say that they are, if somebody has an iPhone handy, if they go into the App Store and type in KDE, you might find whether or not it is in the Apple App Store or not. If it is, then KDE is supported, and I'm wrong. But I don't think it is.
It is.
It is. Okay, so then the answer is that iOS is supported.
What connection technology is used between the phone and the computer? Bluetooth 802.11?
It uses initially Bluetooth to locate a nearby device, and then the connection is handled over your Wi-Fi or the local network that you're on. So both of your computers need to be on the same Wi-Fi network in order for this to work.
Can multiple pictures be sent to a phone at PC at the same time?
If you're launching Google Photos and you highlight a photo, then you can send one photo at a time. If you choose the option to send files, then you have the option to select. You could go into your pictures, select multiple pictures, and send them that way. So yes, you can.
Here's a California comment. Cool presentation. Thank you, Dave. Appreciate that. I do not have any more questions. So let's open it up for random Q&A. So if you will stop sharing, Mr. King, and thank you so much for the presentation. We appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Glad.
Yeah, I learned that it was a lot more than what I thought it was. I thought it was just to control your phone and send chat messages, but that was great to see how much you can do from it.
Yeah, I particularly like the remote control aspect for a presentation.
Yes, it has that feature that Microsoft doesn't have on their software.
That's good information there too.
And from the remote control perspective, from the same platform, Microsoft supports the iPhone now. So if you have a Windows computer and you have an iPhone, you can use the Microsoft Your Phone program to synchronize your iPhone with your Windows computer and do all the same stuff.
Questions? We love questions about everything. By the way, several other people have completed the survey. We appreciate that. I hope that the non-Linux user here chose the books from Amazon. So I hope that you are finding at least one that you would love to have and that would benefit you. And over to Mike in Camarillo, who is living the good life at the beach or close to it, where it's a lot cooler.
9 miles as the crow flies.
Oh, stop. Melton and I are envious.
Okay. Listen, my question is about partitions on an NVMe hard drive, and I'll just throw it out there, see if anybody has experience.
Why don't we wait on that one until after, since right now we're trying to get questions for Drew because he has to be able to leave in a little bit.
Oh, sorry about that. Sure.
That's
Yeah,
fine.
I have another meeting at 2 o'clock, so I've got plenty of time for questions if there are any other.
Yeah, Mike, bring that one up afterwards.
So any questions for Drew?
On any topic at all, if you have.
Anything regarding to Linux? Everybody's here to help other people.
Well, we got another presentation to go yet, so we don't want to take
Oh,
too
I
much.
looked at my list and I thought they were all done. Sorry.
No.
Nope. Okay, we are finished. Mike, we'll get you at the end. All right.
Copy that.
Over to you, Mr. Kennedy. It's your turn.
Okay. We've talked before many times about installing Linux. We've shown it to you a number of times. Two different ways, really. Generically, we have questions such as, what's your language, what's your keyboard, what's your time zone location, and what's your username are going to be, and how do you want to set it up. And the two ways we talked about were automatic, which means the installer takes care of everything, or it was choose your own, which meant you could partition things and set up exactly what you want, those choices. And that's pretty much what was there. I'm missing something. Give me a second here. There we go. what I found was what I wanted to show you today was a very unique installer. Nothing like what we've been using for most of our Linux installs from the Debian Ubuntu Mate family or Mint family. This is one coming from a distribution called Live, and I thought this was pretty neat, so I wanted to share with you. We're not going to actually do the install because that would take a while, but I wanted you to run through the different dialog boxes that you get to see how unique this is and how customized you can make your installed distro. First off, it turns out you help set up the live version, because most of the time you always go to a live version and then use it to install. And of course, one of the first things that comes up, and that's going to be your language. These screenshots have been enlarged so that you can see them, because they're very kind of small on a virtual machine installation. So I kind of made them big. They're also not the clearest, crispest, but you get the point. Okay, and then of course it's going to ask you the keyboard. And then if you have a sub keyboard, it'll ask you for that, because they're always, even though it's in English, but there could be different kinds of keyboards. And then it's going to ask you what features do you want. And for example, it's talking about a compositor, so you can enable transparency and make the dock look better. The conky for where your shortcuts are. You can activate desktop sound effects. You can do the Cairo dock, which is one of those. The conky is the one that shows you all your information. The Cairo dock is your shortcut. And if you're interested in IRC chats, you can even set that up on your live demo. And then it asks you, I didn't go backwards. And then it asks you, do you want to play some music while you are touring this distro and installing it and everything? And you can play it in a window. You can also ask them to show me a video, introductory video on your things. Also show you all the hotkeys that go with it. So these are all the ones that would be what you would use to start your live distro. And then from that, you would click on the button that says install. And this is what we go to when we got to go to install. First thing they want to know is, do you want to help us out by automatically reporting bug problems? That way we can, help fix the problems. And some people don't like stuff being sent from their computers automatically, so you have the choice. You have an option down here at the bottom that says you can get guided help, so that every step of the way you get detailed instructions on what's going on. I chose not to do that with all that extra. And I also wanted to configure the options as we went along. So one of the first things that we get is, now, how are you going to install this? This is an interesting approach, different than what we've seen normally. Normally it's use the whole disk or something else, and we can do the partition. But they realize that some people are not only going to just do it by automatic, which is the second choice, but if you're on a Windows computer, you need to be able to know how to resize the Windows partition to get room for your Linux one. Or you can use the gparted program, which is what most people use with their installers, or the new GNOME disks. We talked about that a little bit before. So you can pick which way. If it's already partitioned, you're fine, or you can let the computer automatically do it with their own method. Then it'll pop up and say, well, what file system do you want to use? And that usually is set up when we do your custom partitions. One weird thing that somebody has pointed out, that the second choice, the Riser FS, is, he says, fast and reliable, but a lot of people say that's kind of outdated, that we've moved on to other file systems besides the default mostly used ext4, but you have that choice. Then the question comes up, do you want to enable encryption? And the warning about, if you forget the password, you will never get to your data. And you get a choice, do you want to do a swap partition or just leave it as a swap file? And so if you do, it will create that for you, much the same way we would have done it sort of in the how you do it anyway, or how you do it if you do it some other way. So I thought that was interesting that they do that. All right, so now it says it's doing some work on here, so you know it's working. But here's an interesting thing. This is a distribution that is a very small team, like 1 or 2 people at the most. And it pops up an option to saying, do you want to support my work? It says our work, but I've been reading that it's not much more than a few people. And to keep this project. And you can choose yes or no that you want to provide it. And if you do that, it continues doing some magic to get the install. And then it pops up with, well, you know, you realize that if we don't get help with financial support, then we probably can't keep this project going very long. And you say, okay, thanks for telling me. Then a little bit later, it pops up again. How about donating? Now, you don't have to donate. You can say no again, but at least this person has given the chance, told you that, you know, if you like this, if I don't get a lot of donations, I may run out of money and stop doing this. Okay, back to a normal name, host name for your computer so you can find it on your network. Now, I did not go backwards. Here's something new. It says, okay, what features do you want to have installed by default that might not be? And as you look through down here, you can see, well, yeah, there's some things I want. If you have a Bluetooth laptop or computer, you'd probably want the Bluetooth support, definitely printer support. If you don't have a scanner, then you wouldn't need to worry about that. You can do the Samba sharing if you're happy to go with Windows. The adding disk utilities, they recommend you use the systemd, and get direct access to this machine on your local network. So those are some very interesting things that I've never seen as an option in the distros that I've done installing. Then we go on and say, how about applications? What do you want? This way you can have a very trim, slim distribution or add it up. Now, it's going to come probably with Synaptic or the command line to install, but it also says we can add a software center to make it easier, but it's going to consume more resources, but it's also going to include flat packs. So you got to take your decide. Do you like this software center? Do you do 3D stuff? Do you do media center? We talked with Dave, who was talking to us about his workings with media center. So you can add that to here. Do you need an office application? Do you need vector drawing with Inkscape? Are you a photo person with GIMP? Do you want an email program? And do you want games? And they let you know that some of this is going to take some extra stuff, but then you can also remove software later if you decide you wanted, and then you decide later, nope, you can always unload. So we've gotten some systems, and now we've got programs. Then it asks, do you want to add extra themes? And a lot of times people like backgrounds and themes and stuff. So you can add those extras. The E16, this is the desktop environment. This is a new one we haven't looked at before. And it's called Enlightenment version 16. So it's just called E16. Or this is a special version of the eLive program that doesn't use the default designs, but you can add them back, so you can take this back to a regular kind of program. What browsers do you want? Because it's not going to come with any browser unless you ask. So you get the choices. Notice that it doesn't give all of them, but you can get more later on. But the most popular between, Google Chromium. I don't like them saying Google Chromium because it's Chromium, but Firefox, Opera, Pale Moon. So you can add how many browsers you want. I always recommend that you have at least 2. What other special features do you not want? So you can go down through this list and remove things. For example, I would definitely remove unnecessary foreign languages. I would uninstall international foreign language fonts that I would never use, taking up space. Uninstall the man pages. Now that depends. If you're somebody who wants to read those because you're learning to do the command line, you don't want to really get rid of those. But if you're not going to be a command type person, okay. You can get rid of demo files, dependencies that you don't need anymore. They recommend that you do not uninstall drivers because you never know what you might need. And you can uninstall the debugging packages. So you can do a lot of stuff to trim it down. Now, when you do this, that's going to make the install go longer than normal because you have to get that off. Now, they call these unfree softwares. And I think that that's misnamed because I don't pay for Skype. I don't pay for Zoom. I don't pay Zoom, Steam, or Dropbox because they all have free versions. So I think this is probably supposed to be non-free open sourceness. But if you're going to be a Skype user, or like for most of us on our APCUG, you can have the Zoom added, or if you're a gamer, put the Steam on there. You need cloud storage. So it gives you a lot of choices in what to add. So people who don't want extra stuff, you don't have to have it. Then comes the magic, because what you get to do is a little box will pop open and you will see all of the activities for installing and removing all these files takes place in front of you. And so all the stuff that Or's been teaching us, you might be able to read some of that and get an idea. But you can see right at the top, I just took a quick shot halfway through this, that you can see that there are 39 newly installed programs, and they're out getting them. So you can actually watch the what's going on behind and see what it does. But again, you have been given the opportunity to custom choose the exact installation. It's not where the distro says, well, I've installed it. Now, if you don't like some of the stuff, get rid of it. If we didn't put what you want in there, go get it. We got to do that kind of right off the bat. Then as we get to the end, here's where we set up our users. And if you want to, using the email, you could give an email address so that that's already in the system. You can do the auto login if you want. This is interesting. You can make a user not have the rights to install packages. Now, you probably want that if you're the only user, or you're going to be in trouble. And again, also you can grant sudo privileges, as we talked about before. This one is not recommended to grant admin and never request the password. We never really recommend that you set up where you don't have to use a password. That's your security level. And then finally, it comes to the point where you've installed it. And then you can either continue to just, use the live one or reboot. So we're going to boot up and take a look at this setup here. Now, as I said, this is a very unique one. This brand is very modern, maybe a little bit too modern. And I don't know that I would use this as my everyday because of the limited support that it gets from the developer. He's got some great ideas and trying to hide that pop-up, but it won't. So wanted you to see it start up. 64-bit, I think it doesn't have a 32-bit. Very modern, and I like the stuff coming across so you know it's working. And there's the login box. There's that thing I was talking about earlier for Mint 21.2 modified some of up here. And also, let me see if I can move this. That's worse. Glitch in the Linux world. Up in here in the top, when you do a dual desktop, you will have either in the login box a settings button or up at the top where you can be able to pick, do I want to log in using MATE, or do I want to use Xfce? Or if you've got multiple, this is where you would do it. We've had some people ask that before, and that's what you would do. But we just got the one choice here. And now it's in my way over here. Get full screen. All right, so this is the thing, and I apologize for this bar that won't disappear. I do not have an option to hide that. I can hide the people. So I gotta complain to Zoom about that. Okay. As you can see, the background stuff, it's very, very modern. Here's the information that you can run for, we call Conky, to get all the information about the computer that you're running. And there's the Cairo doc across the bottom, which is a typical Mac OS type thing on there. One of the interesting things that I discovered about this one is that we've talked about workstations in past, or virtual desktops. This guy has designed his that you can have two separate desktops and virtual windows inside of those. And he has them in pop-out locations. So these are the two different actual desktops, and each desktop has 6 virtual windows in it. So you could get quite a lot of things going between all of these different choices. And he chose that rather than to put it on a panel or stuff, that it's just a pop-out window. The E16, or the Enlightenment desktop, excuse me, comes with a traditional application menu. And of course, these are all the neat, fancy colored neon lights and stuff. And we can change that to go back to the regular. But you get the regular menu, which has all your categories and then subfolders and the programs that come with it. Interesting on this, it comes with the Audacious already on the chat box. You have a shortcut folder that sends you to all of your locations that you want. Your clipboard history, Stack, which is a photo program, your Pulse Audio. This is the eLive. I got to stop watching two screens. The eLive Center, and then there's your Wi-Fi and your trash. And the eLive Center pops open a huge another menu of setting your hotkeys, your program launchers, and all of these sub things. I haven't even had a chance to get all into this. It's huge. Now, in addition to the menus that come over here at the side, if I left click, I get another choice of a menu. So I don't even need to have that at the bottom. So Enlightenment gives you this menu where you have everything that pops up with a left click mouse all the way down. And when you get down to preferences, you can see there's a lot of choices. I think that the Enlightenment may come as a branch for history, or got some ideas from Xfce for all the different kind of customization that it can do. If we get to the Enlightenment, this is a separate settings for Enlightenment that deals with the desktops or the backgrounds, the different desktops. This is a glitch too, and I think in the virtual. Come on, stop. Use my arrow keys. And get you into where your themes are for this. If I right click, if I go into settings, if I thought Xfce had customization, this Enlightenment one is amazing because these are all the different tabs on the side with all of the things that you can do and customize this operating system. This one's called the focus. There's moving and resizing, the different kind of desks that you want, the number of virtual desks that you can go, your sound controls, your effects control. What do you want to do about themes? Use the theme configuration tool on your sessions. But this is huge. Close that one out. But this is an amazing distro to play with. I definitely will keep this in my virtual box and experiment with it and experiment with the Enlightenment desktop environment. You can always go back. See if I can get back and get out of the and get out of this one, which is called the retro wave, and I can go to that. Now you won't let me get my things out of there. But as you can see, this is very unique and kind of crazy. But I wanted to show it to you because I wanted you to see how the installation program gave you so many choices to be able to build it the way you want to do it. Let's try and change the theme there. Oh, no, I want the background, desktop backgrounds. Are you gonna let me change backgrounds? No. But you can, you can get it away from the model. Oh, there you can see how the theme changed over here at the side. Ah, yeah, there's the corner that you have to pick out. And so I can switch desktops, and then within that different desktop, I can have 6 different virtual boxes in that. So I don't know if I would ever go that crazy on that. Right, that gives you an idea of a different desktop environment that we haven't looked at. And, it's a Debian type based distro, so that's not much different than what we've seen before, but the installation program and the actual desktop environments, very unique. So turn things back over to Judy for anything.
It's interesting. I was just checking APCUG's Facebook account, and a few of the things that we talked about, not that you guys talked about this morning, are in the Facebook account. That from, I happen to like the sources for Linux and things like that. And I thought that was way cool. Talk about, having your Facebook account up to date in a timely manner with what's going on in the Linux world.
All right. Yay. Thank you.
Do we have any questions from anybody? We do have our buddy in Camarillo, but does anybody else have any questions about things that were talked about today? Except Orv's not here. Or any other burning Linux questions you might have?
Dump the panel here.
Okay. Andy Kerrigan, you're on.
John, nice job. A whole lot. I was muted, so you couldn't hear my oh wows. Question for you or Cal or somebody that really speaks Linux.
Oh, wait a second, Andy. You've been with me long enough to know that I'm just the host. But go ahead.
Well, you covered MATE, Xfce. This is Enlightenment, and I know if I go into the package manager, you can load the different desktop environments on one distro.
Yes.
So I could have Enlightenment. What are the pros and cons or any problem loading up, Xfce and GNOME and Cinnamon and Enlightenment, whatever, on the same machine, outside of the real estate that it's going to be taking up on your hard drive?
I think some of the, and I'll let others chime in, is that you're bringing in, let's say, a foreign language of words, and your computer kind of gets lost in stuff because it was originally, let's say it was a Cinnamon desktop, and it had all of the things that worked with Cinnamon desktop. And when you pull in something like KDE, then you bring in a lot of KDE stuff. And some of the KDE stuff hasn't really been tested and designed to work with the Cinnamon stuff. And so, I think it's a nice idea to do, but I think you end up having a computer that doesn't know whether it's a Cinnamon or it's a KDE or what, because it's all in there together. It's just at the beginning when you log in, you say, I want to be using this desktop environment, and hope for the best on that. Anybody else on those comments?
Yes, it's conflicts are the biggest problem of having too many things. Generally, it generally works out between KDE and most DOM type things, but some of the others get more complicated. And if you really need to, then you can use containers, but it just gets awful complicated for no good reason sometimes.
I've had a problem. Go ahead, Ed.
The reason that I ask is outside, there are a couple of applications that are specifically for a given desktop, whether it's file managers or whatever. And if you go to install it, what packages are going to be installed? It gives you a whole laundry list of all the different elements that are going to be installed.
Right.
So, you know, well, why not just install the whole desktop environment and be done with it? But okay, you bring up a good point with the conflicts.
Yeah. I've been very selective. There are some KDE programs that I like, but I like the KDE ones that don't bring in a lot of extra stuff. And this is where, you know, Cal's been very helpful in our education, that using the containers and the flat hubs and the flat packs and the snaps bring in those programs that do not really mix in with your regular distro, because everything they need is in that one container.
Great suggestion.
Yeah, and what I've had the problem with is I've done it with just like doing maybe Mint and KDE or Mate, and I'll go in and I'll try out KDE. The next time when I log in, I don't pay attention. It does the last known desktop, and I'm in the KDE and I want to be in the Mate. So I have to log out, get back in, switch it, go back in. I think a lot better is just to run virtual machines if you really want to try it. But yes, I agree with you about some software. There's a couple of KDE programs that I really like, but one of them pulls in lots of extra stuff, and one of them pulls in like hardly anything.
Great. Thank you.
Kevin,
Yes, thank you. I did enjoy seeing those old IBM tape drives, having used those for about 3 to 5 years, long time ago. That was a treat. But my question is, are there advantages and disadvantages to using swap files versus swap partitions on one hard drive? And then is it possible or reasonable to have two hard drives, whether they be solid state or not, on a system, and maybe even putting your swap files or having a swap partition there? Because I understand the concept of what they are and everything. It's just, I haven't thought through that. And if somebody else has, I'd be interested in knowing what they think.
I think the more modern approach is to use swap files, because most people today have enough memory. Whereas swap partitions, when you had 2 gigs of memory, were required. Now, most people say that swap files are good, like when the machine kind of gets overloaded, it can drop things off in a quick place. So it improves the efficiency rather than really absolute using, you know, you've not quite run out of memory, but some of the programs kind of use that as a temporary storage. So I've got kind of, I don't exactly know the technical thing, but I know that just, you know, the trend has been to go to swap files because you really don't need them, and you're not setting up all this overhead and so forth.
Hey, Cal.
Yeah,
Cal,
Andy.
I use a swap partition, and the main reason, probably the only reason I use a partition versus the files, is because I have my toy box, and I have at any given time 4 different Linux distros installed. So my grub menu looks like hell, but I can boot any one of the 4, but each of them uses the same swap partition.
Yeah, okay. That's
only
it.
set up
That's
one-
good. That's
only
a,
set
that's
up
a
one
good
swap
special
partition.
use.
Right. That's one reason for it.
I think the other reason some people like the swap file is that it's not a permanently assigned, that it's an area that can be used, and when not used, it's not used. Whereas the swap partition, you've got to partition it off and it's there, and you've used up hard drive. But nowadays too, you know, with hard drives as big as they are, I don't know of anybody that's running out of hard drive space.
I think the real reason probably is because all of these auto installs, whereas in the old, you know, if you're used to pre-partitioning and putting 2 or 3, you know, different distros and different partitions and booting into different ones, in that situation, then you're used to dealing with partitions and swap files. But if you just say, take over the whole disk or take over, you know, then a swap file is quick, easy, no brainer, no problem. But if you're one of these, you got many distros and you're going back and forth, then you're probably gonna opt for the swap partition.
Right. So I could see where it could be a lot easier to do an install when you don't have to worry about yet one more thing and create another partition
Right,
for something.
right.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. And as
And-
far as speed of performance, any thoughts on the performance with the partition versus the swap file on the same drive? Or I assume it would be much more effective if you could have a solid state drive as a standalone swap file system, because then you're just using everything on a separate channel internally, and the swap file would be pretty fast. No, any thoughts on that?
No, not really.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you guys.
Okay, Andy, I don't know what a toy box is. I only know what a toy box is for little kids.
If it's an old machine with old hardware, and if it went up in smoke tomorrow, I wouldn't lose a minute's sleep.
Thank you. Rod, you're on.
Thank you. Let me preface my remark with I've done several installation on laptops and wiped out Windows 7, Windows 10, and other Linux distros. And I've always had the option to overwrite the entire hard drive. So now I just helped a friend on an HP tower that had Windows 7 on it. I was only given one option, and that was to install alongside the Windows 7 and to select which one I wanted at boot up. And every time we boot up now, it automatically shows the Xfce desktop as the first option, and then it just boots up and works just fine. I'd really like to wipe out that Windows 7 on that machine. Any suggestions on how I can do that? Because I was given no options at all when I plugged in my exact same USB drive that I use for all the other installations.
The only thing I can think of is that there was something that was put a security lock on the Windows. You could go into using like gparted, and you'd be able to go in and delete the Windows partition and then expand. Might have to then update the grub so that it no longer sees a Windows partition. But
Yeah, I think this is, you know, the legacy boot and the GUID boot and what the Windows had on it before. So like John says, if you have it backed up or you have all the files, you just wipe the whole thing and know what you have. So I'm sure it's some of the legacy stuff from the old Windows when it set up the original partition table.
Well, how would I wipe the whole thing out first and start over?
you would get gparted on your thumb drive, the program called gparted. Old days we put it on a disk, boot to that thumb drive, it brings up a Linux operating system is what it is with gparted. Gparted then will show you the hard drive, just like the the drive manager in Windows. And then you would see all the partitions, and you can one by one delete all the partitions and go back to a clean hard drive, and then add partitions back.
Okay, that's
First thing you would do
Oh,
is
yeah.
create a new partition table.
Right.
That would wipe it to 0, and then you add a normally I just add a FAT32 for the whole drive, and then let the Linux installer do its thing.
Yeah, I keep forgetting about that first step. I did the old way with one by one getting rid of the partitions. But yeah, if you go into gparted and go up and choose new partition table, then it takes care of wiping everything out of history. It's still there, but it can be used now.
I'll give that a try. Would you spell that gparted for me, please?
GPARTED. It's
Okay.
GNOME partition tools, what it is.
Okay, thank you very much.
Andy?
Many of the Linux live distributions that you would put on a flash drive contain gparted.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't even have to do a separate install. Whatever you're going to install on that machine, get the live ISO and boot from the live ISO, and you could do all your disk magic in there.
Right.
The tool is generally included on the distribution.
Correct.
Thank you very much.
I love to see you guys participating where you are. You're not in your head, yeah, that's the right answer. You're giving a thumbs up that, yeah, it's the right answer. I think that's way cool, because you're not only getting the answer from one person, you're really getting the answer from a few people. And Richard from Down Under.
Yay, Richard.
Yeah, I'd suggest to Rod to just replace the disk drive completely with a new cheap SSD.
Yeah.
Just load it up as a Linux machine, and better
That's
performance too.
That's what I've done on a couple of the other machines. It just turns that the person I'm helping right now is very frugal and doesn't want to do that.
Yeah. Wipe it out.
Thanks.
Or maybe Microsoft wants you to keep it as a Windows 7 machine. What can I tell you? Last Wednesday's workshop, we talked about air tags and tiles. And one of the gentlemen said, if you're going to need just a tiny little zip tie, you should go to Walmart in the automotive department. I got mine at Harbor Freight yesterday, and they were $3.99 for a package of a gazillion that I, of course, will never use all of them, but it is fun to not have huge zip ties, but just little ones that you can use to put a tile onto, in my case, my backpack, something like that. Any other questions?
I'm waiting for Mike to come back with his M2 question.
No, I know, because I checked and he's still here.
I did too. We know.
Right there.
Yeah. I'd like to give a big pat on the back to Richard, because not only last week was he with our Windows, or our APCUG SIG, which was the middle of the night for him. That night, I got on the Brookdale Computer User Group's Linux group, and he was there with us too. So he had a long day. I hope he took a nap in between.
Andy Kerrigan.
Question for those that are still here. Is anybody using a YouTube program called FreeTube? It's, I don't know if it's open source, it's a freebie. And the reason I ask is I think it's great. I've been using it for a while now, except that it doesn't seem to get all the updates. For example, Judy, you put out the email with the recent YouTubes, a group of 3-4 whatever from recent meetings. And I refreshed it. I started, I stopped it, refreshed, and they don't show up in FreeTube, although they are over on the YouTube site. I'm subscribed to it and whatever. Usually they show up.
It is open source and it's for all 3 operating systems.
Yeah. It's neat.
What's it called again?
FreeTube.
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 You know, my answer to that, Andy, about the videos is that it's just that FreeTube hadn't synced it yet.
That's what I thought, but it's been a couple of days now. Okay. See what happens.
Yeah, because some of the videos, you got to remember, when Judy sends out the videos, they only go to the people who attended workshops. They don't go public on YouTube, maybe for weeks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's the explanation then. Thank you.
Okay, you guys, I am up to 47 responses to the survey. And we had over 80 people here today. And I expect to get at least 80 responses.
I'd like to have a little bit more, because I understand that there are some people that might not have come today.
Yeah, there is, I sent it out. The questionnaire that we sent out a couple of months ago that John heard one response, they were all supposed to go to him. I got 3. One was a litany of Windows questions. I sent those to Bill James to answer. I answered a whole bunch of the Linux questions because I'm always here since the beginning of time. And John answered, and John got an idea for a presentation. That went out to 174 people. We got this many responses. Come on, you guys. So the one today, actually this morning, because I fell asleep last night, that I sent out at 3 o'clock my time in California, went to 168 people.
And there's prizes involved.
By offering an incentive, a typical mom, yes, you do get more money in your allowance if you do XYZ, that people might be more inclined to answer the survey if they get they have the possibility of getting something in return. And I about went blind looking at all of the books on Amazon. And remember, I'm not the Linux user. They just all sounded interesting to me. And so far I have 8 GIMPs, one of the Arduino ones, and the rest are an assortment of all the beginner ones and the beginner command line ones. Come on, you guys.
Good.
Don't you want a book? It will appear in your mailbox, delivered to you directly from Amazon.com. I will have it drop shipped to you, not to me, but to you. Even if Richard in Australia is one of the lucky participants. And I do have to let you know, we have an official prize drawer. Her name is Betty Kennedy. And that is her sole job, other than to support John in life and all that good kind of stuff. She is our official, unbiased person who draws the lucky winners. Stu, you're on from Florida.
Hello, how are you?
I'm fine.
Hey, Judy, I wanted to speak to John. When I first started using Linux many moons ago, before we had all these distributions, Enlightenment was the desktop manager we used at that time, way back. And that was back when we were using all kinds of bare bones things. And I haven't kept up with it, but it had a lot of possibilities. But I think most of the distros stopped using it because it had too many possibilities. But at any rate, Enlightenment's been around for 30 years, you know, and
Yep.
Yep. So I just figured you could put that in your repertoire as you start to speak about this, because it looked, that program, that distro you showed looked very, very interesting. I would just question myself with all those possibilities. Maybe if you got it installed and if you used it carefully, everything would work fine.
Right.
But if you push the wrong button, you could have mincemeat someplace in there, and then you'll have nothing, you know. So I recommend anybody who wants to try it, back up everything and have a backup someplace, because if you need to get back, you can do it.
That was from a been there, done that guy from back in the day.
Yeah.
That's right. And but hey, it was a, you know, you've had very interesting things today, Judy and everyone. That program about accessing your cell phone from the KDE Connect program, that was very interesting. I got that copied down. But and the live program, they were very good programs they talked about today. Eli.
And they were all planned by Mr. Kennedy and his team. This is my Wednesday off, except for sending everything out and chatting like this. I do Tuesday, I do the 2nd and the 4th Wednesdays. And if any of you guys ever want to give a presentation on VirtualBox or Brave or Opera or something like that, I would be forever in your debt, because I would like to do a series on the different browsers, etc. Richard, you're going to probably walk us off as usual with the
I was just going to suggest perhaps you could repost the survey link into the chat for everyone, for those people that may have lost their original email.
Well,
Polite way of saying deleted, huh?
yeah. Oh, hey, I just got one right now.
Judy,
Let's go into my email.
Judy, I
Yeah.
don't know if I'm losing my mind, but I got an email response from you saying thank you for taking the time to complete the survey. And I hate to admit it, but I don't remember completing the survey.
That would have been today, or it would have said you would get a response. Because
No,
she just,
no, I was thinking positively.
Yeah, that's the way it was worded.
Thank you for taking the time to complete the survey. That
Okay.
was Judy Talor being positive. I'm not asking you to do it. I'm thanking you in advance. So you have to get my California mentality going here.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
But
for
if-
the
but it-
And when you do get the, when you do answer it, and you click on submit, you get one of those pop-ups that says the same thing. Just
Yeah.
like when you register for a workshop.
Judy,
Okay.
if you want to put it in the chat box, just put that link in for them for.
I'm getting
Good
it
luck.
as we speak.
I'll take this time too to remind everybody that we will not be with you in August. That is a Saturday Safari Day week. So that's my vacation, Dave's vacation, Cal's vacation, Orr's vacation.
I don't get to go on vacation. That's not fair. Oh,
We supposedly go the first Wednesday of every month and the 5th Wednesday
that
of the
is
month.
true. That is true. I do get 4 vacations, 12, 17 vacations a year. And here it goes out to you guys, a link to the survey, and thanking you in advance positively, instead of asking you to expect it. Let's put it this way. I have my mother hat on. I'm expecting you guys to all respond.
Well, we're hoping that the results of the survey will give us a direction in which to go, whether we will continue going, whether we've come to the end of our life cycle. But we need some help and we need some extras. We need some ideas. So hopefully from the survey, our team can get together next month and review and figure out what we're doing.
And please remember, we are warts and all. You do not need to be an expert. If you have given a presentation to your group and you have it already put together, get in touch. We're not asking you to sit down and think, oh, geez, I've got to put a PowerPoint presentation. No. We want you to give us something that you've already worked on and you're familiar with. We're not asking you to do a lot of extra work. We're just asking you to share what you know.
And with others outside of your group, we'd like to know too.
Yeah. So if you're giving it to your group, we're here waiting for you to give us the presentation.